speed and scale of the collapse is totally unprecedented and unpredicted. The firefighting command posts stationed round the towers have to flee for their lives, throwing the rescue operation into further confusion. Not a single person inside the South Tower survives. Most of the stories from that tower will never be known. Among the dead are Oreo Palmer and Tommy Foley. The cloud of concrete, dust and glass crashes into the North Tower and engulfs the lobby where Chief Pfeiffer is running a command post.
We didn't know a 110-story building was collapsing. We thought that part of the plane fell off the upper floors and was crashing into the lobby, or maybe the elevators blew out.
Higher up in the North Tower, the stream of hundreds of exhausted firefighters know even less about what's going on. Captain Greg Hansen, then a lieutenant, is on the 35th floor of the North Tower.
It felt almost like an earthquake, but turns out the South Tower is now collapsing. Right? We don't know this, though. We have no idea, so we kind of have in these blank stares looking at each other like, what's going on?
The North Tower is now a ticking time bomb on the brink of collapse, which most of the firefighters are utterly unaware of. There is one vital piece of information that the police have that could give the firefighters precious extra minutes to escape. But an ancient rivalry between New York's bravest and New York's finest will lead to unexpected consequences. In New York, the firefighters have a long tradition of friendly but sometimes bitter rivalry with the police, dating back to when lawless young men had first formed gangs to fight fires over 150 years ago. This rivalry has simmered on ever since.
Before 9/11, there were several instances where the elite units of the fire department, who respond to car accidents and other kinds of emergencies, showed up at the scene of an emergency, and the police department's elite units also showed up, and there were several instances of brawls.
You'd be on one side, the cops would be on the other side, and it was just this, like you could hear the verbal jabs going back and forth. I think it's a combination of ego and pride.
In 1993, the World Trade Center had been rocked by a terrorist bomb. People had been airlifted off the roof by police helicopters. Some fire chiefs had thought that reckless and pointless, a police publicity stunt. As a result, the doors to the roof had been locked ever since. On 9/11, the smoke was probably far too thick to land a helicopter on the roof. But this rivalry would have other, far more terrible consequences. A police helicopter has a bird's-eye view of the collapse of the South Tower, but many of the firefighters in the remaining tower have no idea what has just happened.
What other agency knew, what many people watching TV knew, was that a whole building collapsed to the ground. But we were never given that information.
Worse still, the circling police helicopter then calls into question the condition of the North Tower and radios this warning to the police. The firefighters have separate command posts and use a different radio system, so don't hear this. This lack of communication means that many firefighters have no idea how urgent the situation now is. But surrounded by choking dust and debris, Chief Pfeiffer knows he has to take action.
So I got on the radio and said, "Command to all units in Tower 1, evacuate the building." And the firefighters started to come down. The only thing is we made a unhurried retreat.
I heard, "Mayday, Mayday, get out of the building, get out of the building." Now this, you normally hear this for a low-level building, 1 or 2 stories, where you can get out, within seconds. We're on the 35th floor of a high-rise building.
To make matters even worse, the radios that the firefighters are using don't work properly in skyscrapers. So some hear the mayday, but many others don't.
I guess with the information of having the mayday, I had this heightened sense of urgency that, we can't be stopping for anything. So we have to get out of this building as quickly as possible.
As Greg Hansen leads his engine company down, he finds an exhausted man who can no longer walk. Despite their hurry to get out, the team stop to help him.
This is, grab his legs. This is, we got his arms. This is, let's just drag him down the staircase. And, we gave him a bumpy ride down that staircase.
Louis Caccioli is on the 23rd floor.
All of a sudden, I found a bunch of people. I don't know where they came from. They were yelling, screaming, okay? Commotion, panic. So I grabbed them, I said, let's go, buddy, we're going out. Everybody, I led the way, we were going down the stairs. We get down to the bottom of the stairs of the North Tower. I go to open the door, okay? The door won't open. I start pulling on the door, and people are panicking behind me. There was a couple of tough-looking guys. One guy was holding their hand, and a little bit at a time, we wedged the door, but like this. Now I see out in the lobby, there's light. We have hope here because there's light.
Louis ushers the group of civilians out of the tower. Having made it down more than 80 stories, Marvin is now lost and confused in the smoke, just 4 floors from safety.
I saw a fireman through the smoke, and I remember seeing the silhouette of the fireman. I remember seeing his silhouette, and he had the little light. And that's what I used to kind of figure out where I needed to go. I'm not an overly religious guy, but that was an image of an angel for me.
The fireman points to Marvin's escape route, and he, like thousands of others, gets out because of the firefighters who came in.
I survived because they were there. That's how I feel.
Bill Spade has stayed in the lobby, guiding people safely out of the North Tower and away from the sides where concrete and people are still falling to the earth.
Behind me where I was standing, people were flying by. The thud, the loud thud. And then the ones that were hitting off the canopy and then off the chief's car was continuous. Those are lives that are being lost behind me. In front of me, people were coming down the staircase. I was directing them to safety. Those are lives being saved. It was two opposite ends of the spectrum. And everyone that was walking by, they're making it out. They're getting home. It was great.
When I got outside on the West Side Highway, it was like a dust bowl.
As soon as, they gave the okay and we got out of the building, I'm like, okay, we made it.
The driver of Engine 47 is looking for Louis.
All of a sudden, I hear a voice go, Louis, Louis. I turn around, it's my chauffeur, Lance. He starts going to me, where you been? We're looking for you. We're calling you. And we're hugging. We're hugging each other like this. And we're feeling so good. We're like, I'm crying, he's crying. And all of a sudden we hear, look out, look out, look out. The North Tower that I just came out of maybe 2 minutes ago starts coming down. I look back there and I see the antenna coming down and I said, oh my God.
The building just liquefied up there. It just just disintegrated.
Within a second, it just went black. You felt like this wind hitting at your back. And then you just felt, you know, this pounding of rocks. That's what it felt like. It felt like somebody, you know, just was like a machine gun of rocks being thrown at you.
I threw myself on the floor. This is the first time now. This is the first time that I feel like this is it. I'm dying.
The air is full of choking concrete dust and ground glass, making it almost impossible to breathe.
I see my wife passing in front of me, my kids passing in front of me. I said, I can't believe this. I made it out of this tower, and I'm gonna die in the street here. The next thing I know, I put my hand on, it was a mask, and I said, oh, please, God. I opened up the mask, and I hear that, yeah, shh. Threw the mask on like this. I never even put it on. I just threw it to my face like this, and I was dragging it and dragging it. The next thing I knew, I had paramedic working on me.
Bill manages to crawl out of the rubble through the thick cloud of dust and debris and is taken to a nearby hospital.
And my brother-in-law calls me. He tells me all the guys are missing. I said, what do you mean all the guys? And he said, all the guys from 5. I started naming every guy I had breakfast with. He said, Bill, all the guys. There was 12 of us that responded. I was the only one to make it back.
The site of the World Trade Center is a vast field of compressed concrete and twisted steel, sliced through with hidden crevasses. Among the hundreds of firefighters still flooding in is Danny Foley, looking for his brother, Tommy.
I said, Dad, I have to be honest with you, it's not good down here. He said, okay. I said, Dad, I can promise you one thing. I said, we will find them. So we will find them. I'm not coming home until we do.
343 firemen died on 9/11. The firefighters become heroes, but for many, their battle was just beginning, and they would soon discover that the adulation came with a price. After the Twin Towers fell, the hunt for survivors went into overdrive. Underground fires burnt, hot enough to melt the shoes of the rescue workers scrabbling over the surface. This was all that remained of two of the world's tallest buildings. Danny Foley began the search for his brother Tommy.
The first 36 hours I never left, and I just remember saying to myself, well, if there is a small little void that he can fit in, he'll be in that spot. If there's somebody that can survive this, it'll be Tommy.
By the night of the 12th of September, 18 survivors were found. They would be the last.
So 10 days later, September 21st, Friday evening, we found Tommy's body. And brought him home.
We're very lucky that we found him. We're very, very lucky because a lot of families don't have that, and we do. And we have him back. and where he should be.
After 3 weeks, the last lingering hopes of finding survivors faded, and Debbie Palmer had to break the news to her 3 young children.
My youngest one, I remember, I felt like she cried because that was the thing to do.
What? What's the matter?
I got down on my knees and went eye level with her, and I just said, Dad is not coming home. And she just looked at me like I slapped her. And she said, he's not. And her knees buckled out from underneath her, and she just like fell onto the rug. So, like, that is something I'll never, get out of my mind.
As the weeks turned into months, John Vigiano maintained his constant vigil alongside a group of fathers who had all lost sons in the Twin Towers, what became known as the Band of Dads. He had to wait before his son, police detective Joe Vigiano, was found.
And they said, "Do you want to see him?" I said, "No." "Nope." I saw others. I didn't want to see my son. Not that way.
The search carried on for nearly 9 months, and John watched and waited till the bitter end. No trace was ever found of around half of all those killed that day, including John's other son, firefighter John Vigiano Jr. The images of the dignified funerals and the firefighters working every day on Ground Zero were seized on by a public and a press desperate for some kind of hope. The firefighters were hailed as the heroes of 9/11. They courageously charged into the towers to rescue people, and 343 had made the ultimate sacrifice.
After 9/11, firefighters and police officers, we were like, God. Everybody looked up to us. Like, we were the best. I don't like to be called a hero, okay? I did my job, and I did my job the best I could.
Many of the men who had been labeled heroes were struggling to hold their lives together after the trauma of 9/11 and then working on Ground Zero. Each had to face their own demons.
I was out of control. Out of control. And I saw it after, because I wasn't sleeping. I had rage, okay? I had road rage. I got involved with the confrontation. I was just a bitter guy. It wasn't Louis no more.
Certain images and things that just keep playing back in your mind, such as watching people jump, watching that gentleman in his brown suit, and what was left of him after he landed.
The dreams, the flashbacks, the collapse, waking up in cold sweats.
As the years passed, 9/11 would also have a profound impact on the culture of the firefighters.
Before 9/11, if you would have asked me, you got to go for counseling, I would have told you, you got a better chance of hitting lotto, okay? Because it's our job is like, you don't show. But you know what? After 9/11, I'm a big supporter of counseling. I feel like it saved my life.
The brotherhood, that bond that defines what it is to be a fireman, amplified their suffering and sense of loss on 9/11. But for many, the horror and loss inflicted that day also sealed the bond and made it stronger than ever.
We call where we work a firehouse. It's a home. It's a place where you eat and live together and work. In the days after 9/11, we came back to the firehouse, and we had to mourn the people we lost that day. But it was the firehouse that was the family that was starting to heal each other.
And it flows over to everything that we do besides work. It flows over to what we do together as families, with our wives and children. All of our wives know each other, our children know each other and play together at parties.
Pain, yeah. Good days, bad days. But you have a life to live. We have friends. I have 5 grandchildren. They come to my house. Do they want to see an old man sitting in a dark room crying? No.
The unique character and history of the Fire Department of New York meant that around 1 in 8 of all those killed on 9/11 were firefighters who rushed into the towers. But their actions also saved countless lives.
The terrorists wanted to kill as many as they can. They did. And when everybody else is running out, we're still responding in. And that'll always be the tradition of the fire department.